Black families are homeschooling at levels higher than ever before. Recently, we interviewed homeschooling parents, grads, and family members about homeschooling with the help of Remake Learning's Shifting Powers Research Project. Here's what they said.
I'm Cynthia Mendoza, and I'm 38 years old. My homeschooling family is made up of myself, my husband, and my 3 sons. I decided to homeschool because, the first reason I decided to homeschool was because I was scared that the same problems I was having with my older son in school were going to happen with my younger son. My middle son at the time was in 1st grade, and I became a room parent at his school. And I realized that he was getting all his work done before all the other kids were getting it done. And then he was kind of just floating around the classroom, being told to sit down a lot, being told to be still a lot. And I knew he was bored. And when I tried to figure out what options were available, he was in a charter school at that time, and they didn't have any options to test him for gifted. And I knew I didn't want him to go to public school. And I knew also that they were not going to accommodate his intelligence. So from my experience with my older son, I knew that my older son had the same issue in school, and then he became the bad kid. And I was like, I do not want to deal with what I'm dealing with Jair right now with my middle son, Mikhail. And then my second reason was I just realized I don't know these people. I don't know none of these teachers. There really hasn't been, and I at the time was the president of the PTA, and I was a room parent. And I still seen that there weren't really opportunities for me to get to know anybody outside of his main teacher and the people who were a part of the PTA. And I didn't like that. I'd had a couple encounters where I caught teachers doing things that they shouldn't have been doing. And I realized that when I wasn't present with my kids, those things could have been happening to my kids. And my thought process at the time was really like, we live in a society that doesn't really value Black folks, first of all. And not only that, but we also live in this society where, white people are seen as superior. If things are happening to my kids while I'm not there that reinforce these ideas, how are my kids gonna move in life? And then just being able to think about and reflect on how I had to adapt to that, I wasn't comfortable keeping them in those environments anymore. Our household has a real focus. I don't know if we're different as much as I think that, me and my husband have tried to take our experiences in life and make the things we didn't like as well as the things that we do like a part of our homeschooling journey. So that means both me and my husband are entrepreneurs. So we do a lot of focus on our kids with being able to think for themselves, building character, teaching them how to, use their money, teaching them about saving money, teaching them about how to multiply their money. So, we had a probably bigger emphasis on that than families who don't necessarily have entrepreneurs. And then also we have a boy house. I am the sole female in a boy house. So that means there's a lot of farting and laughter and hitting each other and laughter and getting on mom's nerves and making fun of mom and laughter. So we have a boy house, and that just means that there's a lot of boy shenanigans happening at my house. Probably the single largest factor in my decision to homeschool is I do not want my kids to feel like they are inferior to anybody or anything. I don't want them to feel like they have to make themselves less than or divorce themselves from themselves in order to operate in this world. I want them to know there's nobody better than you. You're not better than anybody. You're just a human. And you deserve to live a life that is unique to your version of humanity. So I'd say definitely that would be my single most motivating factor. So currently my oldest son and he's grown. And my 2 younger kids that were homeschooled went back to school this year. So I currently have no homeschooled children at home. Currently. We'll see how this works out. So a typical homeschool day it varied day to day. Some days we were up at 7, some days we were up at 11. The kids we gave them a lot of freedom in terms of getting their schoolwork done. So it's pretty much once we got into a routine, they know what they need to get it done when you get it done. There were times when we would be like, all right, today everybody's sitting down at the table. And typically that was happening like if there was stuff we knew they didn't understand and needed to grasp, and we needed to like have group time trying to figure stuff out. Our boys still did like after school programs, and they played sports. Mikhail is a pianist, so he practiced piano a lot. And so it really, when people ask me like, what does your homeschool day look like? I just tell them we just live life, honestly. We we never had like routine times for school. Maybe when they were younger, when Mikhail and Philip when they were like learning how to read and learning basic math, we had more routine. But as they got older and it was kind of like they knew what we were doing every day, it was just do what you're supposed to do. Because me and my husband are both entrepreneurs. So we wake up and we just do what we need to do for our businesses. And then if they need help, we just try to be there to help them. Probably around the first 2 years were like crappy because I was really trying to force the whole bring the school into the house thing. So I was like, this is the time of day we're going to school. I even like had them wear uniforms, and they rebelled against me so bad, like to the point where one day my son just like got up underneath a desk and would not come from underneath the desk. Like he was like, I'm going to sit here because I'm not doing any of this. He took off his uniform clothes and all he had on was underwear. It was just under the desk, and he was like, I'm not doing this today. And I was so mad. But those first 2 years were really, really difficult. The third year, I found some people online and talked to people, and they're like, no, you don't have to do that. So the third year we kind of did like nothing, because I was like, I'm completely unschooling. Whatever y'all want to do every day is what we're going to do. And then by the fourth year, we kind of like start to get into a groove. It was like, all right, we're going to have to do a little bit of schoolwork because I need y'all to be able to do math. I need y'all to be able to read, but we're also going to take it easy. We're going to figure out what everybody likes. So, I would definitely say finding other people that were doing it and getting advice helped me to get more content with time. But definitely by like 3.5, 4, I felt like, okay, I could do this. Like, I don't gotta try to do what they're doing at the school. I think I have to be honest and say fear kept me going, because the thing is that I didn't have a good school experience. And so my thing was, I just didn't want what happened to me to happen to my kids. And so that's really what kept me going. And as much as I hate to say that fear was a motivating factor, I think sometimes it can be a good motivating factor. You're not supposed to do things out of fear, but I think that there is justified fear. And so definitely I didn't want my kids to have a similar experience to me, because I was also like my older and my middle son in that I was the kid who finished their work, and then there was nothing for me to do. And so after that, it's like, I gotta find something to do with my mind and my time. And so I did stuff that would be considered bad stuff. And I just knew that even on the days where I didn't feel like waking up and dealing with my kids, I knew that I didn't want that to be their experience. As an individual, homeschooling has definitely made me more patient. And I know that's cliche to say it's made me more patient, but it has, because dealing with 3 sons, and my sons are very outspoken, like because they've been homeschooled and they've had a chance to be around adults so much, they don't have, like a lot of kids I'm around, they're scared of adults. I've babysat people's kids before even, and like, they might be hungry or they have to go to the bathroom or something, and they're like peering around the corner, like trying to see if it's okay. My kids aren't like that. They're like, I need this, I need that. Can you do this? So I'm raising independent, outspoken kids. And that has been difficult to deal with, because I didn't come from that type of household. I was not allowed to be independent or outspoken. I had to ask to do everything. And so when you're raising kids that don't ask to go in the refrigerator, that don't ask, who assume that everything that they need, you are there to provide it and you should provide it. And also that when they don't want you to do something for them, they don't want your help at all, is difficult. So I think that has been a challenge for me. Did I answer the question? How it changed you as an individual? Oh, it's changed me as an individual in that it's made me more patient and more willing to question my own motivations around wanting my children to not be independent or not wanting them to assume that the world is their oyster, basically. So it's definitely changed me in that way, because I could say before we started homeschooling, I was definitely that parent that was like, you gonna do what I say, when I tell you, how I tell you. And now I'm still like that a little bit, but I'm also like, all right, let's consider their feelings. Let's consider their skills. Let's consider what they're good at. Let's consider how they experience the world, rather than just making decisions for them. The relationships in my household have been changed by homeschooling in that, like I said, my kids are way more outspoken than they were before, especially my oldest son, because there was a lot we had to fix with my oldest son because school in many ways had traumatized him. My oldest son is a creative and he's a builder. He likes to use his hands to do things. He likes to, go and build a box or a shoe case or a fish tank. Like, he loves to build, and he's really intuitive. He's just an all-around creative. And him being in school, it took that out of him. And so when he came back home and he had more free time to explore those things, it changed the dynamics of our relationship because I was used to being his taskmaster. And so I think, a lot of people say you can't be your kids' friends. And I agree with that to an extent. I think friendship between individuals, period, needs to be earned, and it needs to be something that develops over time. But I think that there has to be a part of the relationship between mother and child where the child is okay with coming to you, not about their achievements, not about the things that are external to them, but the things that are internal to them. And so with my older son, I really had to do some nurturing there. And so I think overall, the relationships that we have, our family has, are just more nurturing relationships. I think in terms of tools that our family used to homeschool, we relied a lot on our own intelligence and our own connection with our kids. When I'm talking about tools, I'm more so thinking about the things that were most integral to how I taught my kids and the substance and material that I taught my kids. And I would say definitely leaning on my own understanding of things and leaning on the fact that these are my kids. Like, they are me. They are me and my husband combined. So really leaning on our own knowledge, our own expertise, the things that we like, the things that we don't like, and using that as a guide. But in terms of tangible tools, we used the library a lot. Like, we went to the library a lot. And then also our community was huge for us because our kids still participated in community activities. And so for us, one of the things we understood early on with our kids, because all three of them are really bright, is that the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s were going to be easy. It was the character building. It was the making sure that they understood how to engage and interact in relationships with people, the give and take of relationships. And so we really just rely on the community. So making sure our kids are involved in activities, making sure that they know the people in their neighborhood, making sure that they have good relationships with people in the community. And when I speak of community, I'm talking about the after school programs they go to, the sports that they're involved in, their cousins. Like, people forget about cousins. Kids have cousins. Those people can be friends too. So, we rely a lot on the people around us and kind of use their collective minds, collective experiences as tools in our homeschool. One of the misconceptions about homeschooling that drives me crazy is that people think we rich. When reality is most of us are struggling. I want to add an extra ing there. Me and my husband are both entrepreneurs. We're new entrepreneurs. We're first generation entrepreneurs. That means the first 4 years of my business, I made $0. My husband was working at the time when we first started homeschooling, and then he came home and started his own business, and he was making almost $0. Homeschooling has been a financial struggle for us. It is not, we did it because we thought it was best for our kids. We didn't do it because we had some type of silver lining privilege that existed that was like, oh, you have a safety net. We kind of just jumped off the bridge and was like, oh, these kids are in school today, they're not in school tomorrow. How are we gonna feed our family now? So I think that's a big misconception that I want to get rid of, because one of the things I found out when we started homeschooling was there's tons of resources out there, and a lot of them are free. A lot of free resources out there that you can use to educate your children if you want to. And also, you know, homeschooling really expanded our faith in our own income earning opportunities and abilities. And so homeschoolers are not rich. What we are doing is we are getting, especially Black homeschoolers. Most Black homeschoolers ain't rich. They're getting up every day and they're putting in the work. And I mean the work on their families. We're putting in the work in our kids. We're putting in the work in our businesses. And it's not easy. It's not an easy job to do, but it is doable.
Got more questions about homeschooling? Want to hear more from Black homeschoolers? Visit blackhomeschoolquestions.com.